Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. People think a marriage falls apart after one big fight. Mine didn't. It ended because of one calm question asked at exactly the wrong time. Pamela and I had been married for 15 years. We lived in a lake house about 20 minutes outside town. It wasn't fancy, but we'd built a good life there. I owned a small construction company and Pamela worked as a marketing manager. We weren't struggling. The mortgage was nearly gone. Our daughter was already in college. Life was supposed to be settling down. That Sunday evening, I grilled steaks while Pamela opened a bottle of wine. We carried our plates onto the back deck and watched the sun disappear behind the lake. It felt like an ordinary night. Halfway through dinner, she rested her glass on the table and smiled. "Can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." She twirled the stem of her wine glass between her fingers. "You won't get mad?" "I don't make promises before hearing the question." She laughed. "Fair enough." Then she looked straight at me. "What would you think about giving each other one hall pass?" I didn't answer. She kept talking. "Just one. No feelings. No secrets afterward. Just one experience before we get too old." I set my fork down. "Is there somebody already?" She blinked. "What?" "No." I held her eyes. "That's not what I asked." She looked away first. "It's just something people talk about." "No," I said calmly. "People who already have someone in mind talk about it." She forced a smile. "You're reading way too much into this." "Am I?" Silence settled over the deck. Finally, she sighed. "So that's a no?" I leaned back in my chair. "If you need permission to be with another man, then you've already decided what kind of wife you want to be." Her expression hardened. "You're making this way bigger than it is." "No," I said. "I'm seeing it exactly for what it is." She crossed her arms. "So, what happens now?" I stood, picked up my empty plate, and looked at her one last time. "You wanted honesty." She nodded. "Here's mine. If you leave this marriage to spend a weekend with another man, don't expect to come back to it." She stared at me as if waiting for me to laugh. I didn't. That night, after she went upstairs, I sat alone in my truck overlooking the lake and called Derek Lawson. He answered on the second ring. "Gerald, I need you to start the divorce papers." There was a short pause. "You sure?" I've never been more sure of anything. Because Pamela thought she had asked for a hall pass. What she had really asked for was the end of our marriage. Pamela acted like our conversation had never happened. By Tuesday morning, she was humming while making coffee. "I booked a wellness retreat," she said casually. "Thursday through Sunday, just me. Spa, hiking, yoga, the whole reset thing." I buttered a piece of toast. "Have a good time." She looked surprised. "That's it? What were you expecting?" "I don't know. Maybe a speech." "You already heard it." She studied my face for a moment, trying to figure out if I was bluffing. Whatever she saw seemed to satisfy her. "I'll bring you back something," she said with a smile. "Don't." She laughed. "You always were impossible to shop for." "No," I replied. "I just don't like souvenirs." That afternoon, I met Derek Lawson at his office. He'd handled contracts for my business for years and knew me well enough not to waste time. "You weren't joking," he said as he opened a folder. "I don't joke about divorce." He nodded. "Any proof of cheating?" "No." "Doesn't matter?" "It doesn't." He slid several documents across the desk. "We'll file the petition the day she leaves. Everything stays clean. No games, no hidden accounts. Just protect what's legally yours and let the court handle the rest." "That's exactly what I want." He looked at me for a long second. "You seem calm." "I made my decision Sunday night." "Then don't second-guess yourself." "I won't." When I got home, Pamela was in our bedroom packing. She didn't notice me standing in the doorway. A new black dress lay across the bed, high heels, a bottle of perfume she'd bought only a week earlier. Then she folded a red lace set into the bottom of her suitcase before covering it with workout clothes. She turned and smiled. "Oh? I didn't hear you." "I noticed." She zipped the suitcase. "Think I'll need hiking boots?" "If you're planning to hike." She laughed a little too hard. "I knew you'd say something like that." "I usually do." Thursday morning arrived. She kissed my cheek before the rideshare pulled into the driveway. "Don't work too hard," she said. "I won't. You'll miss me." "I'll be busy." She climbed into the car without another word. I watched it disappear around the bend. Then I walked back inside. By 9:30, Derek had filed the divorce petition. By 10, a locksmith was replacing every lock on the house. By noon, I had packed every single thing Pamela owned into sturdy moving boxes. Each one was labeled neatly: clothes, shoes, bathroom items, books, photos, no smashed frames, no broken dishes, no anger, just order. As I taped the last box shut, I looked around the house. For the first time in years, it felt quiet. Sunday afternoon, I wasn't home. I was sitting in my new condo overlooking the river, drinking black coffee while my phone stayed face down on the table. At exactly 4:18 p.m., it started vibrating. Pamela. I let it ring. 30 seconds later, she called again. Then again. I already knew what she had found. Every box was stacked neatly under the covered front porch. Her suitcase had room beside them. The front door wore a brand new deadbolt, and an envelope with her name rested on the largest box. I had left nothing to misunderstand. The fourth call came in. Voicemail. A minute later, my phone buzzed with a message. Gerald, my key doesn't work. Why are my things outside? Call me. I read it once, then locked my screen. An hour later, Derek called. She'll probably have a lawyer by tomorrow. I figured. You still comfortable with everything? I've never slept better. He laughed quietly. I've known you a long time. I don't think I've ever heard you sound this certain. I gave her exactly what she asked for. Freedom? No. A choice. Just before sunset, another message arrived. Please tell me this is some kind of misunderstanding. It wasn't. 5 minutes later, another. I'm outside. The neighbors are watching. That wasn't my problem anymore. Finally, I answered. Not with a phone call, just one sentence. You wanted a marriage where another man had a place. I didn't. Nothing else. Later that evening, I checked the security camera one last time. Pamela was sitting on one of the moving boxes with the envelope in her lap. She finally opened it. Inside were the divorce papers, a short letter, her spare house key, and one sentence written by hand. You were free the moment you decided another man belonged in our marriage. I simply made it official. She read it twice, then a third time. She looked at the front door as if she expected me to walk out and tell her it had all gone too far. I never appeared. Instead, she called again. This time, I answered. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Finally, she whispered, Gerald, please. You had 4 days to think. It wasn't what you think. Then tell me. It was just a question. No, I kept my voice steady. It was a test, and you failed it. She started crying. So that's it? That's it. I ended the call before she could say another word. As I set the phone down, I looked around my new place. There wasn't much furniture yet. Just a couch, a table, a bed. But for the first time in a long time, every single thing in my home belonged to someone who still respected it. The next morning, Derek called. She hired an attorney. I expected that. He also told me she spent most of yesterday saying you overreacted. I smiled. That'll change. What makes you think so? Because sooner or later, someone will tell her the truth. I didn't have to wait long. 3 days later, Rachel Collins called me. Rachel and her husband Noah had been close friends of ours for years. I thought you should know, she said. Pamela came here tonight. I figured she would. She wanted us to tell her she was the victim. And? Rachel sighed. We couldn't. She told me everything afterward. Pamela had walked into their house already angry. I can't believe Gerald threw away 15 years over one conversation, she'd said. Rachel had stayed quiet. Noah had leaned against the kitchen counter with his arms folded. Pamela kept going. He packed my things like I was a tenant, changed the locks, filed for divorce before I even came home. Finally, Rachel asked one question. Did you really think he'd be waiting when you got back? Pamela frowned. Of course. Why? Because he loves me. Rachel shook her head. No, because you believed he loved you more than he respected himself. The room went silent. Pamela looked at Noah. Say something. He did. I watched Gerald take your jokes for years. What jokes? The ones where you called him predictable. I was kidding. The ones where you told people he was safe because no other woman would ever steal him. Pamela opened her mouth. Noah didn't let her interrupt. You laughed when he talked about growing his business. I never. You rolled your eyes. I was teasing. You embarrassed him at dinner parties. I didn't mean. Intent doesn't erase disrespect. Rachel stepped closer. You know what the saddest part is? Pamela crossed her arms. What? You still think this is about the hall pass? It is. No, Rachel's voice stayed calm. The hall pass wasn't the reason. It was the proof. Pamela's confidence cracked. So, you're taking his side? Rachel answered without hesitation. I'm taking the side of the person who spent years trying to save a marriage, while the other person kept testing how much she could get away with. Pamela looked from Rachel to Noah. Neither of them moved. Neither of them comforted her. For the first time since she had left for that so-called wellness retreat, she realized she wasn't just losing a husband. She had lost the respect of the people who knew both of us best. Once respect is gone, there isn't much left to argue about. A month passed, then two. The divorce moved through the system exactly the way Derek predicted it would. No screaming matches, no dramatic courtroom scenes, no midnight phone calls, just paperwork, signatures, deadlines, the end of a marriage. Meanwhile, I got busy. Not because I was trying to prove anything, because I finally had time. I started showing up at the gym again before work. I took fishing trips I'd been putting off for years. I expanded my construction company into 2 neighboring counties and hired another project manager. Most importantly, I stopped spending energy trying to keep someone happy who had already checked out. Funny how much time that frees up. One Thursday evening, I attended a charity fundraiser downtown. Nothing fancy, a local business event raising money for trade scholarships. I almost didn't go. I'm glad I did. That's where I met Emily Dawson. She was an architect working on several commercial projects in the area. We ended up sharing a table. The first thing she said to me was, "So you're Gerald Brooks." I laughed. "Should I be worried you know my name? Only if your buildings fall down." That got my attention. For the next hour, we talked about construction, business, and the lake area. No games, no testing, no hidden meanings, just a conversation. At one point, she asked, "How long have you owned your company?" "Almost 16 years. That's impressive." Simple words, but I couldn't remember the last time someone had said them without a joke attached. A few weeks later, I heard through mutual friends that Pamela had seen photos from the fundraiser online. Apparently, she zoomed in on every picture. Apparently, she asked questions. Apparently, she didn't like the answers. I wasn't surprised. People always think they're irreplaceable until they discover they aren't. One afternoon, my phone buzzed. A text from Pamela. The first message she'd sent in nearly 6 weeks. "Can we talk?" I stared at it, then put the phone back in my pocket. An hour later, another message arrived. "Please, just once." That one sat with me a little longer. Not because I missed her, because I wanted closure. Real closure. Not another argument, not another attempt to rewrite history. Just the truth. That evening I called her. She answered before the first ring finished. "Gerald, we can talk." A sharp breath came through the phone. "Thank you. One conversation." "Okay." After that, we're done. Silence. Then a quiet, "Okay." We agreed to meet the following Tuesday at a small coffee shop near the river. When I hung up, I had a feeling I already knew how the conversation would go. Pamela wanted another chance. What she didn't understand was that chances run out, and hers had expired the moment she asked another man to share what was supposed to belong to only 2 people. Tuesday came. I got to the coffee shop 10 minutes early. Not because I was nervous, because I believe the person who asks for a meeting shouldn't have to wait. Pamela walked in exactly at 2. She looked different. Not older, just quieter. She spotted me by the window and slowly sat across from me. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, she broke the silence. "You look good. I've been taking care of myself." She nodded. "I can see that." A server brought coffee. Neither of us touched it. Pamela folded her hands together. "I've replayed that night 100 times. I believe you. I never thought you'd actually leave." "I know." She looked down. "That was my mistake." "No," I said calmly. "That was your confidence." She frowned. "I don't understand. You believed there wasn't a line you could cross." She swallowed hard. "I wasn't planning to cheat. You were planning to ask permission. That's different." "No, Pamela. It really isn't." Her eyes filled with tears. "It was one stupid question." I leaned forward. "No. It was 15 years of little things leading to one final question." She stayed silent. "You laughed when I talked about expanding my business." "I was joking. You corrected me in front of people. I didn't mean anything by it. You made decisions without asking me. I thought, I know what you thought." She stopped talking. You thought I'd always stay. She wiped at her eyes. I loved you. I know. I still do. I nodded once. But respect comes before love. She looked confused. I don't understand. You can't love someone while treating them like they're optional. The words hung between us. She whispered, I've been trying to figure out where I lost you. You didn't lose me in one day. You lost me a little at a time. Her shoulders dropped. So, there really isn't another chance? I answered honestly. No. What about that woman? Emily? She nodded. Are you together? We're getting to know each other. She closed her eyes for a moment. Is she better than me? I shook my head. This isn't about better. Then what? She listens. That answer hit harder than anything else I could have said. Pamela stared into her untouched coffee. I would have changed. I stood. I believe you. Hope flashed across her face. Then I finished. But people usually change after they lose something. They rarely change enough to get it back. I placed enough cash on the table to cover both coffees. She looked up. So, this is goodbye? I met her eyes one last time. No, I said quietly. This was goodbye the night you asked for a hall pass. This, I pushed my chair in, is just the conversation we never had back then. I walked out without looking back. Some endings don't need another argument. They only need the truth. 3 months later, the divorce became official. Neither of us went looking for a fight. The papers were signed. The judge approved everything. 15 years ended in less than 20 minutes. As I walked out of the courthouse, Derek caught up beside me. How do you feel? He asked. I looked up at the clear sky. Lighter. He smiled. That's a good answer. It took a long time to earn it. We shook hands, and I drove away. There wasn't anything left to win. The hard part was already over. A week later, I stopped by the old lake house one final time. The sale closed the next morning. I only had one toolbox left in the garage and an old fishing rod I'd forgotten in the storage room. The house echoed now. Empty walls, empty closets, a place full of memories that no longer belonged to me. As I carried the toolbox toward my truck, another car pulled into the driveway. Pamela stepped out. She looked at the house first, then at me. I hoped I'd catch you. You did. She walked closer but stopped a few feet away. I heard they're selling it. They are. I wanted to see it one last time. I nodded. So did I. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she quietly said, I've spent months wishing I could go back to that Sunday. I know. I would have never asked that question. I looked at her calmly. It wasn't the question. She closed her eyes. I know. It was everything before it. She gave a slow nod. I understand that now. I reached into the truck and pulled out a small picture frame wrapped in an old towel. Our wedding photo. She stared at it. You left it in one of the boxes. I couldn't bring myself to throw it away. I handed it to her. You should keep it. She held the frame against her chest. I never thought we'd end like this. Neither did I. A tear rolled down her cheek. I'm sorry, Gerald. For the first time since all of this began, I believed she meant it. I know you are. She looked at me one last time. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? I thought about it for a second. I already have. Her eyes widened. You have? Forgiveness isn't the same as going back. She lowered her head. I guess I know that now. I climbed into my truck. Before closing the door, I looked at her one last time. You asked me for one weekend to see what life looked like without boundaries. I started the engine. I gave you something different. She waited. The rest of your life without me. I drove away without checking the mirror. Some doors deserve to stay closed, and real peace begins the moment you stop reaching for the handle. Thank you for watching.